Dear friend, perhaps in the past few days, you may have felt your heart burdened by so many weights. Life is never smooth. Sometimes it's joyful, and other times it's so heavy that you just want to let go of everything. Perhaps you've woken up some mornings feeling completely depleted of strength, wanting only to lie still to avoid facing another long, stressful day. Perhaps you've walked on a familiar path, but felt utterly estranged in your soul, feeling lost amidst a bustling crowd. These are signs of fatigue that anyone can face in life. It's not just you who feels this way. I, and those around you, have all experienced this feeling at least once. Fatigue doesn't mean you are weak, nor does it mean you have failed. It is simply the silent voice of your body and mind, reminding you that you have gone too far, carried too much, and forgotten to stop and rest. No matter how durable a machine is, it needs maintenance. No matter how strong a bird's wings are, it must find a perch before continuing its long flight. Humans are the same. We are not made of stone. We need moments of stillness to listen to our hearts and breath. And today, this teaching does not come to tell you to be stronger, nor does it force you to try harder one more time. The Zen Buddhist Teachings channel simply wants to invite you. If you are feeling utterly exhausted right now, please set aside the external hustle and bustle. Sit down in a quiet place, relax your shoulders, take a deep breath, and listen. Listen not only to these words, but also to the beat within your own chest. Listen to the call of your soul that needs comfort. Buddha once taught that suffering is an unavoidable part of life. But within that suffering also lies the seed of enlightenment. Fatigue is also a part of life. And if you look closely, you will see that within that very fatigue, there is a reminder to let go. Because when we no longer have the strength to hold on, that's when we learn to relax and let things unfold naturally. If you are listening to me right now, give yourself a few seconds to close your eyes. Feel your breath moving in and out, slowly and steadily. Just 3 deep breaths, and you will notice your heart gradually calming down. That is the first step to returning to the peace inherent within you. The Zen Buddhist Teachings channel wants you to remember that you are not alone on this journey. Millions of people are also struggling with their own bouts of weariness. And even in that weariness, we can still find the strength to move forward. Let this teaching be a companion, a shoulder for you to lean on in moments of weakness. Because no matter how stormy it gets out there, deep within you, there is always a peaceful haven waiting for you to return. Dear friend, perhaps in life, all of us have at least once fallen into a state of fatigue so profound that we just wanted to give up everything. Those might be the days when you had to immerse yourself in work from morning till night, your hands calloused from making a living, yet still fearing there wouldn't be enough food and clothes tomorrow. Those might be the sleepless nights, your mind spinning with accumulated worries, but your heart having no energy left to cope. And it could also be just an ordinary afternoon when you sit lost in thought, watching the hurried crowds pass by, wondering why you feel so empty. These feelings make us think that we are failures, that we are weaker than others, that the whole world is turning its back on us. But the truth is, no one can live without feeling tired. Because humans are made of flesh and blood, not wood, stone, or steel. Fatigue is a sign that we have gone too fast, carried too much, and forgotten that our body and soul also need care. If you observe the trees out there, no matter how sturdy they are, they need time to shed their leaves, to rest and regenerate. No matter how continuously a river flows, it must have quiet bends where it slows down. No matter how high or far a bird flies, it needs to perch to rest its tired wings. Humans are the same. We cannot keep running without stopping. Therefore, fatigue is not a sin. It is not proof of weakness, but an essential part of life. It speaks to us as a gentle reminder that it's time to let go a little, to reflect, to breathe, and to nourish our inner strength. I want to tell you the story of Mr. Tran Van Luc, a construction worker that the Lin Ung Buddhist teachings channel once met. Mr. Luc was not famous, nor did he have brilliant successes for others to admire. He was just an ordinary man, living in a small house in the countryside, supporting his whole family with arduous construction work every day. Every morning, he woke up before dawn, hastily ate a bowl of rice, and took his cold lunchbox to work. On hot days, sweat poured down like rain. His clothes were drenched, and his hands were full of calluses. On rainy days, his whole body trembled under a thin raincoat, but he still tried not to lose a day's wages. All this was because he wanted his children to have a full meal, to have new shoes for school. Then, one day, while mixing cement at the construction site, Mr. Luc suddenly collapsed. Everyone panicked and rushed him to the emergency room. The doctor said he was exhausted after a long period of overwork. He had to rest for a whole week, forbidden to do any work. During those days, lying in the hospital bed, he was very restless. He thought he was useless, just a few days of rest, and his salary would not be enough. His wife and children would be in want. But then, in that very moment, he realized something important. Resting did not make him a failure. On the contrary, it was thanks to rest that he had the strength to continue moving forward. He understood that if he kept pushing himself, one day he might collapse permanently. And what would happen to his wife and children then? Mr. Luc's story is the story of many of us. We often think that resting is laziness, is incompetence. We fear that if we stop for a moment, we will be left behind. But the truth is, only when we give ourselves the opportunity to recover do we have enough strength to continue the long journey ahead. Resting is not giving up, but preparing for a new journey. In Buddhism, there is a saying that no one can walk forever without stopping, just as no one can live forever in stress without finding peace. If you are also feeling tired right now, the Lin Ung Buddhist Teachings channel invites you to try something very simple. Sit down in a quiet place, close your eyes, and place your hand on your chest. Take a deep breath in, then slowly exhale. Repeat 3 times, and you will feel your body begin to calm down. Next, whisper to yourself, I am allowed to rest. I don't have to keep running. I deserve peace. Just like that, you have planted a seed of healing in your soul. Fatigue is not failure, but a reminder that you need to love yourself more. An empty pitcher cannot pour water for others, just as an exhausted heart cannot continue to love or carry burdens. So, give yourself time to recharge, because only when you are healthy and peaceful can you continue to care for your loved ones and fulfill your responsibilities in life? Buddha once taught that suffering is like mud. It is precisely because of the mud that the lotus blossoms. Fatigue is also like this. It is the mud that helps you learn to appreciate moments of peace more. If you have never experienced moments where you felt like giving up, you would not fully understand the value of peace when you get to rest. Therefore, instead of resenting fatigue, view it as an essential part of life. Let each moment of fatigue become an opportunity to return to yourself, return to your breath, return to the peace inherent in your heart. Dear friend, there are times when we feel like we're constantly running on an unending wheel. Work follows work. Responsibilities pile upon responsibilities, from worrying about family to colleagues, from one deadline to another. And so we get caught up in the hurried rhythm of life until we look back and realize our heart has run dry, our soul has become weary without us even knowing it. Sometimes we wake up in the morning, grab our phone to check emails, and immediately dive into a long workday. We no longer have time to hear the birds singing on the porch, no longer notice the aroma of a cup of tea, and sometimes don't even recognize our own smile in the mirror. We live like machines, operating continuously, forgetting that our body and soul also need care, also need moments of stillness to revive. People often think that stopping is a waste of time. People fear that resting means being left behind. But if a tree remains dry and unwatered, will it still have the strength to be green and bloom? Humans are the same. If we let our body and mind dry up, if we keep running without ever stopping, sooner or later, we will collapse. That is a law of nature that no one can resist. Trees need rain to revive. Rivers need a quiet bend to settle. And humans need rest to continue living healthily and happily. There was a woman named Mai who worked in an office at a large company in the city. Her life revolved around numbers, reports, and stressful meetings. After work, she rushed home to take care of her family, prepare meals, and oversee her children's studies. Each day for her was like an endless race. Gradually, she felt exhausted. Some nights she couldn't sleep, her mind racing, her heart pounding. Some mornings, she woke up feeling empty, not wanting to leave the house. The climax came one day after a stressful meeting. She felt so suffocated that she had to leave everything behind, run outside to breathe some fresh air. She decided to do something she hadn't done in a long time. Wake up early, put on sportswear, and go to the park near her house. The morning air was cool, fresh, and clear. Lush green trees swayed in the wind, and birds chirped like a gentle melody. She chose a large tree, sat down, closed her eyes, and took a deep breath. For the first time in many days, she clearly felt the fresh air filling her chest, then slowly exhaled, relieved, as if letting go of all the pressure. Just one morning. But she felt completely different. The tension seemed to disappear. Her mind became clear and light. And from that day on, she began to cultivate the habit of stopping, allowing herself to sit still, to breathe, to listen to the voice of her heart. We can learn a very important lesson from Mai's story. Stopping is not losing out. Stopping is not a waste of time. Stopping is a way to nourish our body and mind, to prepare for the long journey ahead. In Buddhist scriptures, there is a teaching that just as a long-distance traveler needs rest stops to regain strength, one who does not stop will become exhausted mid-journey. Similarly, if we do not give ourselves moments of stillness, we will soon become exhausted on life's journey. If you are listening to the Zen Buddhist Teachings channel right now, please try a small exercise. Sit comfortably, place both hands on your thighs, and close your eyes. Breathe in deeply for 3 seconds, feeling the cool air entering every cell. Then slowly breathe out for 3 seconds, as if you are releasing all your worries. Do this 3 times, and in just a few minutes, you will feel your body lighter, your mind more peaceful. That is meditation in breath, a simple method that anyone can practice anytime. Try to imagine your soul is like a garden. If you only work and till it every day, but never water or fertilize it, that garden will become barren. But if we know how to stop, know how to water it with moments of stillness, know how to sow seeds of peace with slow breaths, then that garden will be full of flowers and fruits. Similarly, when we take care of our body and mind with rest and stillness, our lives will be brighter, happier, and more stable. So don't be afraid when you feel the need to stop. Don't think that stopping is a setback. On the contrary, stopping is an important step forward, a necessary pause to regain balance. In the echoing sound of the temple bell, we hear a reminder that everything has its rhythm. There are intense moments, relaxed moments, climaxes, and quiet moments. Humans also need this so as not to lose themselves in the endless cycle. And the Zen Buddhist Teachings channel wants you to remember that taking care of your body and mind is not just a responsibility to yourself, but also an act of love for those you cherish. Because when you are healthy and peaceful, you can bring peace to your family, your children, your friends. If you are exhausted, your loved ones will also be affected. Resting and stopping, therefore, is not selfishness, but a gift you give to everyone around you. Buddha once taught that in every breath, we can find peace. So right now, try to smile gently. Take a deep breath in, then exhale with that smile. That is how you nourish happiness. That is the magic of stopping. There are days in life when we feel so constricted that even a small matter can irritate us. Someone cutting in line, a thoughtless remark from a colleague, a clumsy action by a family member. All these can make us frown and harbor annoyance. In reality, that irritation doesn't come from whether the matter is shiaiti or small, but from how we perceive and confront it. When our heart is closed, we find fault with everyone, finding everything disagreeable. But if we open our hearts and look with eyes of compassion, then what we thought were heavy burdens become as light as a drifting cloud. Buddha taught that in this life, every person carries karmic connections, and everyone has shortcomings, and we ourselves are no exception. Therefore, instead of nitpicking every little thing, instead of harboring resentment, we learn to add a measure of forgiveness. When the heart knows forgiveness, we not only soothe our own mind, but also sow a seed of peace for those around us. Compassion is not weakness, but the strength of a soul that understands that anyone can make mistakes. Anyone can stumble at times. And it is precisely in such stumbles that one needs support more than condemnation. If you pay attention, you will notice that every time we hold a grudge our mind heats up like fire. That fire not only burns away joy in that moment, but also leaves an lingering echo in our hearts. Sometimes, even days after an event, we still remember it, still resent it. And that energy makes us tired, making our entire face feel heavy. Conversely, every time we choose to forgive, forgiving others is also forgiving ourselves. We feel an incomparable lightness, like someone removing a heavy backpack from their shoulders, leaving only a sense of freedom and compassion. Therefore, forgiveness is first and foremost a gift we give to our own soul. In a small market, there was an old woman everyone called Mrs. Two, who sold vegetables. Every day she carried baskets of fresh vegetables from her garden to the market, spread a small tarp, and sat there from early morning until all her goods were sold. People valued her for her fresh vegetables, but even more for the kind smile that always graced her lips. One morning, a young woman hurried through the market, fearing she would be late for work. In her haste, she accidentally knocked over Mrs. Two's entire basket of green vegetables. The leaves scattered across the ground. Those nearby paused for a moment. Everyone thought the old woman would be angry because it was her hard work, carried all the way from her garden. But she just gently bent down, gathering the vegetables and saying to the young woman, "It's all right, my dear. This basket of vegetables is easy to gather back up. If vegetables fall, we pick them up. You go to work, so you're on time. It would be a shame to be late." Her voice was so gentle that people could see the shame in the clumsy young woman's eyes. She didn't hurry away, but knelt down to help the old woman pick up every single leaf. From that day on, every time she went to the market, she always stopped to buy vegetables from Mrs. Two, not just to thank her, but because she wanted to see that compassionate smile. A small act, but it sowed a seed of kindness in another person's heart, making the market that morning warmer. Mrs. Two's story reminds us that compassion doesn't have to be something profound. It can simply be a smile, a gentle word, a nod of acceptance for someone else's small mistake. If Mrs. Two had chosen to scold, that morning market would probably have been weighed down by a tense atmosphere. But thanks to her open heart, she turned an incident into an opportunity to connect and to sow admiration in another's heart. Therefore, compassion not only soothes conflicts, but also opens the door for human kindness to spread. Reflecting, we too have caused trouble for someone else. Sometimes we accidentally damage someone's belongings. Sometimes we say words that upset them. Or sometimes we are late for an appointment, making others wait. If at that moment we were forgiven, we would feel a great sense of relief. So, when we forgive others, we are giving what we ourselves once needed. That is also the spirit of compassion in Buddhism. To see oneself in others, to see others in oneself, from which the heart becomes less resentful, less calculating, and instead filled with empathy. Some say forgiveness is difficult because our hearts are often harsh, but in reality, it is difficult because we are not used to it. It's like practicing deep breathing. At first, it feels awkward, but once you get used to it, each breath becomes natural and helps you find peace. Forgiveness is the same. We can start with the smallest things. Forgive an unintentional word. Smile at a clumsy mistake. Don't blame someone for being a little late. Gradually, our heart will expand, and we will find that forgiveness becomes a beautiful habit that brings joy to ourselves. You can try it right now. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and think of someone who has upset you. In your mind, whisper, "I forgive you, and I also forgive myself." Just a gentle word in your heart is enough for you to feel your mind settle. Forgiveness is not denying pain, but learning to let go of attachment to it. Like someone releasing a heavy stone from their hand, only then can the hand be light and comfortable to receive new things. There is a miracle. When we are compassionate towards others, others also find it easier to be compassionate towards us. A happy family is not a place without mistakes, but a place where members know how to forgive each other. A united team is not a place without conflicts, but a place where everyone knows how to accept differences and continue working together. A peaceful society is not where everyone is perfect, but where people look at each other with understanding. Buddha taught that a compassionate soul is like a vast body of water. Even if a stone is thrown into it, the water will only ripple slightly, then settle back into stillness. Conversely, a small cup of water, when a stone is dropped into it, will immediately overflow. Our mind is also like this. If it is narrow-minded, a small mistake will cause us suffering. If it is generous, even big things can be easily resolved. So, what is the lesson here? A little giving, a little letting go, and you will feel your heart lighten. When we learn to look at life with compassionate eyes, we will no longer be submerged in waves of anger. We stand firm, like the earth, able to support every step. Even if someone treads on us, we patiently embrace them. That patience, that compassion, is the source of peace. If today you are tired because of a relationship, try giving others and yourself a chance. Don't rush to blame. Don't rush to condemn. Think that every person is learning how to live, and perhaps today they stumble, but tomorrow they will grow more mature. Compassion is believing in that potential for transformation. And when you believe, you grant yourself a profound sense of inner peace. Sit for a moment. Breathe slowly. Place your hand on your chest and whisper, "I choose compassion because I want my heart to be at peace." Then you will see a serenity radiating from your eyes and your smile, touching those around you. Compassion is not just a virtue. It is a miracle that can transform this whole world into a more peaceful place. Have you ever felt that your life is too noisy? Even when you sit alone in a quiet room, your mind refuses to be still. A series of thoughts follow one another, like crashing waves, sometimes thinking about unfinished work, sometimes recalling past sorrows, then worrying about things yet to come in the future. Although it's quiet outside, inside it's like a bustling, chaotic market. It is this very noise that makes us tired, because we think that resting is sitting down and closing our eyes. But true rest is when our mind can dwell peacefully, no longer disturbed by countless thoughts. In modern life, people often seek happiness externally. We think that if we have more money, we will be happy. If we rest in a distant place, we will feel peaceful. If someone loves us more, we will feel happy. But the truth is, some people have all these conditions, yet their hearts remain empty. They go from place to place, seeking one joy after another. But these joys are only fleeting and then disappear. This is because they have not found the true source of happiness, which lies within themselves. Happiness is not something we search for, but a state when our mind is quiet and present in the moment. Buddha taught that happiness is not found in chasing desires, but in a mind content and present within itself. A person can sit in a field with nothing but simple clothes, but if their mind is as still as a clear lake, they will see the entire sky reflected in it. Another person, even with a towering castle and abundant wealth, if their heart is turbulent, will only find suffering. Therefore, inner stillness is the root of happiness, not external conditions. I want to tell you the story of a man named Sao, who lived in a small fishing village on the coast of central Vietnam. Mr. Sao had been a fisherman since he was a young man. His life was tied to the sea, to voyages full of storms. People said that fishing was unpredictable. Today you might catch a big haul. Tomorrow you might return empty-handed. Mr. Sao's life was therefore not affluent. Sometimes he even had to struggle for each meal. But strangely, anyone who met him saw an indescribable serenity in him. Every morning when he rowed his boat out to sea, Mr. Sao would often sit quietly, gazing at the sea. Waves gently rolled. The sky sometimes shone with brilliant golden sunlight, sometimes covered with murky gray clouds. But his heart was not disturbed by this. He said that the sea has its calm and turbulent moments, but if one keeps chasing the waves, the heart will never be at peace. He understood that happiness was not about how many fish he caught today, but about living in harmony with the sea, knowing how to enjoy every moment he sat on his small boat, listening to the wind, watching the sunrise. Once, a young man asked Mr. Sao, "Aren't you worried, sir? If you go out to sea today and catch no fish, your family will go hungry." He just smiled gently and replied, "Worrying won't make fish jump into the net. And not worrying, we can still live. What's important is whether your heart is at peace or not. There might be few fish, but if our heart is turbulent, even many fish won't bring happiness." That saying stuck with the young man. Indeed, inner stillness is the anchor that prevents the boat of life from being swept away in the unpredictable sea. Mr. Sao's story is not just for fishermen, but for all of us. Everyone's life has its storms. There are times of success and times of failure. If our mind keeps chasing the waves, we will be caught in an endless whirlpool. But if we have a quiet space within our heart, we will see that the waves are only on the surface, while deep below, the sea always remains still. Similarly, even if external circumstances are turbulent, if we are steadfast within, we will not be swept away. You might ask how to achieve that stillness. Actually, it starts with very simple things. Right now, you can sit down, take a deep breath, and slowly exhale. Each time you breathe in, just know that you are breathing in. Each time you breathe out, just know that you are breathing out. When your mind returns to your breath, it stops running to the past or worrying about the future. That is the moment you return to the present. And in that present, you can find peace. You can also practice by observing a lake or a river. Look at the water when it is still. You will see the entire sky reflected. But when the water is rippled by waves, the image becomes distorted. Our mind is also like this. When the mind is turbulent, we look at life with distortion, seeing everything as unsettling. When the mind is still, everything becomes clear. Therefore, happiness does not come from changing external circumstances, but from keeping the mirror of our mind calm. If you are facing many difficulties, try writing down on paper the things that worry you. Write them down to see that, in fact, most of them are assumptions that haven't happened, fears created by your mind. After writing, you can fold the paper, put it aside, and tell yourself, I allow myself to rest. At least for now, that is also a way to find inner stillness. Some people think that to achieve tranquility, one must abandon worldly affairs, go deep into the forest or to a temple. But Buddha once taught that tranquility is not found in a place, but in how we engage with each moment. A person in a bustling city street can still be tranquil if they know how to breathe with mindfulness. Conversely, a person in the mountains whose mind is still agitated cannot find peace. Therefore, what is important is not where we go, but whether we can return to ourselves. True happiness always exists within our inner self. It is not a distant reward that we must wait for. It is like the sun that is always there, only obscured by the clouds of illusion. When we dispel the mists of worry and craving, the light of happiness immediately shines forth. Inner stillness is the source, the root. From there, all the flowers and fruits of happiness can bud and blossom. So, if today you are overly tired, please give yourself a pause. Don't rush, don't strain, just sit down, breathe deeply, and listen to the beat of your heart. In that listening, you will realize that for all these years, you have always carried within you the ability to be at peace. It has never been lost. You have just forgotten to reach for it. And when you rediscover it, you will see that happiness is not found in circumstances, but in the peace within your inner self. Buddha taught that when the mind is at peace, the world is at peace. A person with inner stillness finds peace wherever they go. Like Mr. Sao, sitting on his small boat in the vast sea, even with storms, his heart was at peace. And it was that peace that made him happy. That lesson is for all of us. Stop chasing happiness outside. Turn back and seek it within yourself. Once you find it, you will see that wherever you are, you can smile with serenity. Perhaps each of us has at least once experienced a feeling of emptiness and hollowness when something unexpected happens. An unannounced breakup, a loved one passing away before we could say a final goodbye, or simply an afternoon, when we suddenly realize we've lost too many precious moments by constantly chasing things that may not even be necessary. Life is simply like that, always full of unannounced surprises. We often think we have plenty of time, tomorrow, next month, next year, to fulfill our plans, promises, and meetings. But life is impermanent. Time waits for no one. And sometimes a promise made today can become a lifelong regret. People often say, life is like a river, sometimes calm, sometimes raging. But no matter what, that river never flows back to its source. Our youth, those vibrant early mornings, those afternoons spent with parents, those bursts of laughter with friends, all are like drops of water flowing away. Once they're gone, They can't be retrieved. Yet we have a habit of living as if we'll always have more time, constantly calculating for the future and forgetting that the present moment is also a part of life. There was a young man named Hung. He lived in the city, busy with work, immersed daily in contracts and endless meetings. Hung had a close friend from college named Quan. They had shared countless memories, met for coffee, talked about their youthful dreams, and promised that no matter how busy they became, their friendship would remain intact. But then, as they got caught up in the demands of making a living, their meetings were constantly postponed. Each time Quan invited him, Hung would say, "When I'm free, okay?" That "when I'm free" gradually became a familiar excuse, like a promise never fulfilled. Until one day, tragic news arrived. Quan was in a traffic accident and passed away suddenly. When Hung received the news, he was stunned. He couldn't believe it, couldn't believe his friend of so many years could leave him in an instant. At the funeral, looking at his friend's portrait with a gentle smile, Hung couldn't hold back his tears. His heart was filled with questions and regrets. Why didn't I make time to see Quan? Why did I keep thinking I had many tomorrows? Why did I let appointments be missed just because of work that never ends? That remorse stayed with Hung for many years. But that very tragedy also became a profound lesson that changed his perspective on life. From then on, Hung learned to cherish every small moment with his loved ones. He started visiting his parents in the countryside more often, not waiting for holidays. He spent weekend afternoons strolling with his wife and children. Instead of sitting in front of his computer for a few more hours, he made plans to meet friends for coffee. And this time, he kept his promises, no longer using "when I'm free" as an excuse. Hung's story is a reflection for many of us. We often think we have plenty of time, but the truth is, no one knows what tomorrow will bring. The Buddha once taught that human life is merely a breath. As long as there is breath, there is life. When breath stops, it is the end. This sounds simple, but within each word lies a profound truth. Every breath in, every breath out, is a precious opportunity for us to realize that we are still alive, still capable of loving, still capable of smiling. So why do we squander that time on anger, resentment, and calculations of gain and loss? Is it worth it to miss warm moments with family just because we are preoccupied with a few trivial words at the office? Is it worth it to let a loving embrace, an apology, a word of thanks become too late just because we think we can say it tomorrow? Reflecting, all of us can see ourselves in Hung. Everyone has had a promise left unfulfilled, an appointment postponed, a delay that ultimately meant it was never done. And it is only when we lose something that we realize the value of its presence. But regret can never reclaim the past. Only mindfulness in the present can help us avoid repeating those mistakes. To truly learn to appreciate the present, we don't need to do grand things. Sometimes, just sitting down and taking a deep breath, feeling the air filling our chest, feeling life present in every cell. Every morning, instead of hastily grabbing our phone to check news, we can spend a minute pressing our palms together in gratitude for waking up healthy. When eating a meal, chew slowly, savor the flavors. Think of the effort of the cook, of the earth and sky, of all the hands that sowed and grew the food. When talking with parents or friends, put your phone aside, look directly into their eyes, and listen completely. These small things are how we practice appreciating the present. There is a very simple method that Zen masters often teach. Whenever your mind feels agitated, stop and take 3 deep breaths. Each breath is a reminder that you are still alive. Then ask yourself, is what I'm doing really important? Is it worth sacrificing this present moment? Just like that, you will find it easier to let go of anger and worries, to return to the peace of this moment. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught that the past is gone. The future has not yet come. Only the present is the moment we truly live. This teaching is simple, yet profound. It reminds us that all things are impermanent. Everything has a beginning and an end. Nothing lasts forever. When we understand that, we will appreciate every moment we have even more. One afternoon, sitting on the porch and watching the clouds drift by, we will see that happiness is not something distant, but precisely this moment. A moment where we can breathe, live, and love. And when we know how to live fully like this, we will no longer fear impermanence, because we have learned how to embrace it as an essential part of life. The lesson from Hung and Kwan's story reminds us never to let a promise turn into regret. Don't let love exist only in memories. Live wholeheartedly for today, because today is the most precious asset we have. When we know how to cherish the present, even if impermanence comes, we will have no regrets, because we have lived a full life. In modern life, sometimes we feel as though we are caught in an endless whirlpool of conflict, competition, and striving for advantage. People vie with each other for benefits, trying to prove themselves. And in these clashes, we often feel tired and hurt. Some choose to react with rigidity, confronting others to protect their ego. Others choose to suffer in silence, but their hearts are filled with resentment. Both approaches leave the heart gradually parched and heavy. But perhaps we forget that in nature there is a great lesson that is always present, always compassionate and patient. That is the way of water. Water appears soft, seemingly weak, but it is something that can penetrate rock, wear down mountains, and create vast valleys. Water does not compete, does not resent. It simply flows silently, slowly, but persistently. When it encounters an obstacle, water does not immediately try to destroy it, but finds a detour, curves, humbly, quietly, but eventually still reaches the sea. The image of water reminds us that sometimes softness does not mean weakness. Compassion does not mean subservience, but rather a silent, persistent, and steadfast strength. I want to tell you the story of a farmer named Nguyen Van Khai, who lived in a small village in central Vietnam. That year, Khai's village suffered a prolonged drought. The sun was scorching, the fields cracked, and the rice withered away in patches. Everyone in the village was anxious and worried. Some complained to the heavens, some blamed the government for not caring. People argued with each other over the scarce remaining water in the communal irrigation ditch. The atmosphere in the village was heavy, full of tension. Khai, however, was different. He didn't complain, nor did he participate in the arguments. He quietly observed and thought of a solution. After many days of walking along the hills, he discovered a small stream high up. Although the flow was not abundant, if he knew how to channel it, he could save the rice fields. He set to work. Initially, many people mocked him, saying that a tiny stream wouldn't be enough to irrigate an entire field. But Kai didn't get discouraged. He diligently dug ditches, laid stones, and led every drop of water to the fields. Day after day, that small stream flowed into each rice paddy, at first only moistening the soil. Then, gradually, the young sprouts revived, and the rice turned green again. Seeing the results, those who had mocked him also began to help. The whole village joined forces to widen the flow. And finally, the once barren field became lush green, bringing a bountiful harvest. Seeing this scene, everyone deeply understood that it was the patience, silent as water, that saved the entire village. Kai's story is a vivid testament to the power of gentleness. If he had chosen to argue, complain, or wait that day, the field would probably have been completely lost. But by learning from the way of water, by quietly transforming, persistently, without being impatient, he turned the impossible into possible. That is also a great lesson for us in daily life. We are often accustomed to reacting strongly when someone offends us or when we encounter injustice. It is human nature to want to protect our ego, to want to show others that we are right. But if we constantly confront, the result is only mutual harm. Meanwhile, if we are gentle like water, instead of rigid like stone, we can navigate difficult turns more smoothly. Water never loses. It simply chooses a wiser path. And it is precisely because of this flexibility that water ultimately triumphs. In Buddhist scriptures, there is a saying, "The soft overcomes the hard. Stillness overcomes motion." This is not advice to be weakly submissive, but rather points to a profound strength within us. When our mind is sufficiently stable, we don't need to compete because everything already has its place. Water humbly flows to low places, but it is precisely for this reason that it gathers to form vast rivers and oceans. If we know how to live with compassion and tolerance, we will become as vast as the ocean, and nothing will be able to harm us. Try to recall times in your life when you got angry and argued fiercely. Did you feel relieved? Or did you only feel tired, stressed? And ultimately, nothing was resolved. Meanwhile, there were times when you chose silence, chose to offer a smile to let things settle down, and it turned out the outcome was much better. That is the power of gentleness. To learn the way of water, we can start with very small things. When someone says something hurtful, instead of reacting immediately, try taking a deep breath, exhaling slowly, and then asking yourself, does that remark truly diminish my worth? If not, then is it necessary to cling to it? When facing difficulties at work, instead of being hasty, losing your temper, or feeling discouraged, try to think, is there a roundabout path? Is there another flexible approach? Like the flowing water, it will eventually find its way out. Another small practice is to pause each day when washing your hands or drinking water to feel the water touching you. Think that water has traveled a long journey to reach your hands, having been clouds, rain, streams, and rivers. Learn the softness and compassion of water to nourish your mind. When we drink a sip of water with mindfulness, we are also drinking in patience, vastness, and peace. In family life, too, spouses, parents, and children sometimes cannot avoid disagreements. If everyone wants to win, the family will be full of tension. But if one person is willing to step back, to be flexible like water, then the storms will dissipate and happiness will return. When we understand the way of water, we will see that gentleness is not weakness, but a wise and powerful way of being. Water can be flicked away by our hand in an instant, but it is also water that can create vast oceans and wear down mountains. Similarly, a person who lives with compassion, without attachment, without competition, can pass through great upheavals in life and still maintain inner peace. The Buddha once taught that the mind of a practitioner should be like water, always clear, soft, and unattached. When our mind is like water, we will reflect all things as they truly are, without adding or subtracting, without distortion. When our mind is like water, we will encompass all people and circumstances without resentment. And when our mind is like water, we will have enough patience to pass through suffering and ultimately attain true happiness. The story of Farmer Nguyen Van Khai has given us a clear image. Just by being persistent and gentle like water, we can transform a barren piece of land into a lush, thriving field. In life, too, if we are patient and compassionate enough, we can transform the barren lands of suffering in our soul into a place where seeds of peace can grow. Try living like water, my friend. Every day when you are tired, breathe slowly. Think of the water flowing through you, gently yet steadfastly. Let gentleness guide you. Let your heart open wide with compassion. Then you will realize that life is no longer so heavy. And one day you will find yourself like a river flowing to the great sea in peace and freedom. There are days when we wake up and feel as if the whole world is pressing down on our shoulders. Tired, discouraged, stuck. Everything seems to be against us. Have you ever sat alone in a dark room, feeling as if no one understood your pain, and there was no way out? Life is like that. No one can avoid rough roads, painful falls, or unspoken emotional wounds. Sometimes it's the loss of a loved one. Sometimes an unexpected illness strikes. And sometimes it's simply the worries about food, clothing, and money that cling to us every day. These sufferings are like a long, dark night, seemingly endless, making us think we can never get through it. But do you know? In the teachings of the Buddha, he once taught that suffering is a part of human existence. No one in this world lives completely without experiencing moments of distress. In fact, these very challenges are opportunities for us to temper ourselves, sharpen our will, and find inner strength. Just as a seed buried in the earth must pass through darkness, dampness, and cold before it can sprout and grow into a green plant. If there were no night, how would we appreciate the light of dawn? The ancients had a saying, "No night lasts forever. The sun will rise again." That saying is simple but profoundly deep. It reminds us that all pain, no matter how insurmountable it seems, will eventually pass. Nothing is permanent, not even suffering. Time flows like a river, carrying away tears and wounds. The question is whether we have enough faith and courage to await the dawn or give up in the darkness. I want to tell you the story of Ms. Lan, a teacher whom I believe anyone who hears about will find inspiration to rise from their own pain. Lan was a kind, diligent teacher, loved by her students. But one day, disaster struck. Doctors diagnosed her with a serious illness and told her she might never walk normally again. Imagine, a person accustomed to standing at the blackboard, walking around, writing, caring for each student, suddenly being condemned to a wheelchair for the rest of her life. That was nothing short of a desperate sentence. Many in her situation would have completely collapsed, succumbed to fate. But Lan was different. Although she cried many tears during long nights, she never allowed herself to surrender. She began practicing small movements, from flexing and extending her toes to trying to stand for a few seconds. Sometimes the pain was so intense, she fainted. Sometimes she was so discouraged, she wanted to give up. But then Lan remembered her students' eyes, remembered the burning passion for teaching in her heart. She told herself if she gave up, not only would she be disappointed, but the children would also lose a teacher who loved them. So she persevered day by day, hour by hour, like tiny drops of water persistently dripping on a hard rock, eventually creating a crack. After many months of continuous practice, a miracle happened. Lan stood up, took her first faltering steps, then became steadier. The day she returned to the lecture hall, the whole class erupted in emotion. Her students not only admired a teacher skilled in knowledge, but also a teacher with incredible willpower. From then on, Lan became a living testament to the saying, "Suffering is only a test. Willpower and faith decide whether you overcome the darkness." Lan's story is like a small lamp illuminating the darkness, reminding us that it is our own self that is the strength to rise. The Buddha once taught that no one can save themselves but themselves. A teacher can show the way, but it is we who must walk. Friends can encourage, but courage must come from your heart. Family can love, but faith must be nurtured by you in every thought. If you are tired, in the darkness of suffering, the Lin Ung Buddhist Teachings channel wants you to try to stop for a moment. Take a deep breath. Feel the air going in. Then breathe out slowly. Let fears and resentments dissolve with each breath. You can close your eyes, place your hand on your chest, and softly say, "I am still here. I have not given up. As long as I breathe, as long as I live, there is still an opportunity to rise, to start again." A small but effective practice you can adopt right now is, whenever you feel tired, write down one thing you are grateful for today. It could be a warm meal, a smile from a stranger, or simply the fact that you still see sunlight today. When you record these small things, you will see that you are not empty, not powerless. You are still being supported by countless wonders around you. The Buddha once taught, "Mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind-wrought." If you maintain a bright faith, a steadfast mind, no difficulty can extinguish that light. The night may be long, but the sun will surely rise. The important thing is to nourish the fire in your heart, so that when the light comes, you are ready to step out and embrace it. Remember that suffering is not an enemy, but a strict teacher. It comes to challenge, to teach us to appreciate what we have, to help us find the hidden strength within. Like Ms. Lan, it was through illness that she found extraordinary courage. Like mountains formed after countless upheavals of earth and sky, humans also mature after countless falls and rises. If today you feel weak, do not rush to blame yourself. Weakness is a part of being human. The important thing is that you do not stop there. Stand up. Even a small step is progress. Believe that you can, because faith itself will lead to courage. Once you believe, no matter how great the difficulty, you will find a way to overcome it. And once you have passed through the darkness, you will realize something. It was precisely those painful days that forged a stronger heart, a more compassionate soul within you. You will learn to appreciate joy, appreciate peace, appreciate even the seemingly small things in life. Just as a lotus can only rise and spread its fragrance when it grows from the mud, humans, too, can only truly shine after overcoming suffering. So, if you are in stormy days, remember Ms. Lan. Remember that you too can rise. You too can return to the stage of your life, whether it is the stage of family, work, or your own soul. Don't let the darkness trick you into thinking that dawn will not come. Dawn is always there. You just need enough perseverance to wait and enough courage to move forward. Finally, I want to send you a reminder from the Dhammapada. By oneself indeed is evil done. By oneself is one defiled. By oneself is evil avoided. By oneself is one purified. Purity and impurity depend on oneself. No one can purify another. That verse is like a wake-up call, that you are the only one who decides where your life will go. Suffering is just the wind, but you are the captain of the boat of your life. Walk with faith. Nurture courage in every breath. Let your heart become the sun that dispels the darkness. And believe that one day, when you look back, you will smile and silently thank the very pains that forged the resilient person you are today. Perhaps in this life, not infrequently, you have felt truly lonely amidst a world that is too noisy. There are days when we endlessly chase work, bury ourselves in worries, and become so tired that we forget there are loved ones quietly waiting for us to return. Sometimes we think that we must be successful, must have a lot of money, a lot of status, to bring joy to our parents and family. But we forget that sometimes what makes parents and loved ones happiest is not grand gifts, but simply our presence. It's a smile, a handshake, a simple meal together. Modern life increasingly alienates people. Young people are busy with work, appointments, and endless projects. The elderly sit quietly in their familiar homes, always waiting for the sound of their children's footsteps. How many of us have told ourselves, when I'm free, I'll visit my parents, or when I'm settled, I'll spend time with my family. Then that when keeps getting pushed back until we realize that time waits for no one. Parents cannot become young again. And precious moments of love have gradually slipped away. In Buddhist scriptures, the world-honored one once emphasized filial piety. He taught that even if we were to carry our parents around the world, we could not fully repay the debt of their nurturing. This is because a parent's love is immeasurable, beyond compare. With parents, we have a home to return to. With loved ones, we have a support system to share with. But when we are too busy chasing distant things, we easily forget these close-at-hand treasures, only to feel endless regret when they are gone. I want to tell you the story of a man named Tuan. He was born into a poor family in the countryside, but from a young age, he studied diligently, determined to rise above his circumstances. When he grew up, he moved to the city to start his career, working for a large company. His busy, high-pressure job consumed him, making his visits home to see his mother less frequent. Tuan told himself he had to try hard, so that later, when he was more capable, he could repay his mother's kindness. But in that whirlwind, he didn't realize that his mother was growing older and weaker day by day. One Tet holiday, Tuan rushed home. He stepped into the small kitchen and saw his mother sitting alone beside a pot of boiling ban chung. His mother's hair was white. Her hands trembled as she wrapped each cake. She looked up, saw him, and a kind smile still graced her lips, though her eyes had faded considerably. Tuan choked up. He realized that all this time he had been so engrossed in his work that he had forgotten the mother who had dedicated her entire life to him. His heart ached, for with each passing Tet, his mother grew another year older. From that day, Tuan changed. He reorganized his work, spending more time returning home to sit with his mother, wrap cakes with her, and share simple meals. For him, happiness was no longer contracts or numbers, but every brief yet warm moment spent with his mother. Tuan's story is not just his. It reflects many of us. When we are young, we think parental love is a given. We consider missed calls and our mother's reminders as annoyances. We are indifferent to small gifts from our father. But then, when time takes away our parents' health and breath, we realize we have lost the most precious thing. In life, there is much suffering that makes us forget the presence of love. We get caught up in work pressure. We endlessly pursue unfulfilled dreams. We worry about social relationships. But then one day, returning home, we see our parents have grown much older and weaker. At that moment, we suddenly feel an indescribable emptiness, because parental love is unconditional, but the time we have with our parents is limited. The Buddha taught that gratitude and filial piety are the foundations of happiness. A person may not be successful in their career, not wealthy in material terms, but if they respect their parents and love their family, that person already possesses an invaluable treasure, because love is the source that nourishes the soul. When we are grateful, we no longer feel deprived. Instead, we feel truly rich, because we are supported by sacred emotions. If you are feeling tired in life, try to stop for a moment and think about your parents. Remember your mother's smiling face. Remember her calloused hands from worrying about her children. Just thinking about that will soften your heart. All pressures will seem lighter, because love is always the most powerful healing energy. You can practice this today. Call your parents, ask them what they ate today, how their health is. If possible, go home and sit with your parents for an afternoon. Listen to their old stories. Give them a hug. Hold their trembling hands. Just these small actions will plant seeds of happiness in your heart and extend that gratitude not only to your parents, but also to all your relatives and friends who have accompanied you in life. Be grateful to the friend who encouraged you when you fell. Be grateful to the teacher who guided you on the right path. Be grateful even to those who have hurt you, for they taught you the lesson of resilience. When our heart is full of gratitude, we will find life much gentler. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha taught that those who are grateful and repay kindness are rare in this world. Indeed, gratitude is a noble quality, the foundation for nurturing compassion. When we are grateful, we are no longer selfish, no longer thinking only of ourselves, but we appreciate and love more. That is the path that leads us to true happiness. You can try a small exercise every night before bed. Write down 3 things you are grateful for today. It could be a delicious meal, a friendly smile, or simply that you are still breathing today. Write them down. Close your eyes, smile, and let your heart settle. Just a few minutes, and you will feel your mind more peaceful, lighter. And tomorrow, you will wake up with renewed strength to move forward. Remember that true happiness is not found in material things, but in love and gratitude. When you love your parents, you are loving your very roots. When you are grateful for what you have, you will no longer endlessly search for happiness in distant places. Because happiness is always present in every simple moment, in every breath, in every loving glance. I want to remind you of a verse from the Dhammapada. The kindness of father and mother is so deep and vast that it is difficult to fully repay. A dutiful child is one who cherishes every moment while their parents are still alive. That verse is like a gentle reminder that love and gratitude cannot be put off until tomorrow, because tomorrow might be too late. Speak words of love while you still can. Go be with your parents while you still can, and cherish the present moments, because they are the most precious gifts in life. Perhaps in life, everyone has at least once experienced the feeling of being hurt by someone. Sometimes it's a thoughtless word that pierces us. Sometimes it's betrayal from the person we trusted most. Sometimes it's just a small incident, but it sows a lasting bitterness in our hearts for years. Every time we recall it, our heart clenches. That person's face appears along with anger and bitterness. It's at those times that we find life so heavy. Many people say they feel tired, not because of work, not because of money, but precisely because they cannot forgive someone in their life. They harbor a wound in their heart, as if carrying a heavy stone on their shoulder, unable to put it down wherever they go. Anger and resentment have tremendous destructive power. When we allow them to reside in our hearts, they not only cause us temporary discomfort, but also gnaw at us daily. The ancients had a saying, "Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. The longer we hold on to hatred, the more we torture ourselves. Some people live for decades, but never have a truly peaceful day, simply because they cannot let go of what has passed." Why is forgiveness so difficult? Because when we are hurt, our ego immediately erects a defensive wall. We tell ourselves that we have suffered too much, and to forgive would be nothing less than weakness, being disrespected. However, the truth is entirely the opposite. Forgiveness is not weakness. Forgiveness is strength. It is liberation. When we forgive, we are not condoning the mistakes of others, but merely opening the door for our own heart to find peace. Try to imagine a person clutching a very heavy stone in their hand. The longer they hold it, the more their hand aches, even bleeds. But out of stubbornness, they don't let go. They cling tightly to that stone, only to become tired and exhausted. If they just open their hand and drop the stone, they will immediately feel relieved. Forgiveness is similar. When we open our hearts and let go of resentment, we will find our mind suddenly clear and light, like a cloud drifting across a blue sky. I want to tell you an everyday story. Perhaps you will see a reflection of yourself somewhere in it. Ms. Hong, a woman in her 40s, once had a close friend from her youth. They shared all their joys and sorrows, and even collaborated in business based on that trust. However, during a difficult period, that friend chose to deceive her, embezzling a large sum of money and then disappearing. Ms. Hong was deeply heartbroken, not so much by the loss of money, which hadn't completely devastated her, but by the loss of trust, which was a wound difficult to heal. Years later, even after rebuilding her life, she still harbored resentment. Every time someone mentioned that friend's name, her heart would burn with anger, and sad memories would flood back. One day, by chance, she met that person again. Instead of scolding or getting angry, she remained silent for a long time. In that moment, she suddenly realized how much she had tormented herself for years over an old matter. The other person might have gone on to live their own life, while she was still tying herself to a cycle of resentment. Then she gently smiled and said a short sentence. "Let the past be the past. I'm not angry anymore." Her friend was momentarily stunned, and Ms. Hong felt as if a mountain of stones had been lifted from her heart. From that day on, she lived more lightly, her health improved, and her heart became more open. And miraculously, the two of them could even converse normally, as if there had never been a deep chasm between them. Ms. Hong's story is not rare. In life, sometimes just a moment of courageous forgiveness can open a new path for the soul. Forgiveness does not change the past, but it changes how we live in the present and future. If you are harboring a wound in your heart, try a simple practice. First, sit still, breathe in deeply, and exhale slowly. As you breathe in, imagine bringing light into your heart. As you breathe out, imagine releasing the heavy stones of resentment. Then, try writing down on paper the name of the person who hurt you, along with the feelings you are holding in your heart. Look closely at those words, then softly say, "I forgive you," not because you deserve it, but because I want my soul to be free. Afterwards, you can fold the paper and burn it as a ritual of letting go. You will feel your mind gradually lighten. It may not happen immediately, but if you practice this every day, the pain will gradually subside, and one day you will truly smile when you remember the past. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting everything, but it means not letting that event continue to hurt you. Buddha taught that resentment is like shackles and chains. Only a compassion and forgiveness can remove them. When we forgive, we open our hearts to love more, to understand that everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has their own wounds. When we look at others with compassionate eyes, we will see that they too are just imperfect human beings struggling in this life, just like us. Life is inherently short. No one knows if we will meet again tomorrow. If we continue to harbor resentment in our hearts, we are depriving ourselves of precious, peaceful days. It is better to learn to let go so that each day that passes is a lighter day. Forgiveness is not for others, but for ourselves. Forgive so that our mind is no longer burdened, so that we can live serenely and peacefully. Remember that the heart is not born to harbor resentment. The heart is born to love. When we know how to let go, we will see that love spread, bringing peace to everyone around us. That is the true happiness that the Buddha wanted to teach us in life. Sometimes we lament why we have tried so hard, yet still encounter obstacles. Why do we treat others well, but are not reciprocated? Why do so many efforts not bring the sweet fruits we expect? These questions often arise when we feel injustice, when we think that life is unfair. But if we look deeply, we will see that everything has a cause. Everything follows the law of cause and effect that the Buddha taught. One who sows rice seeds will harvest rice. One who sows gourd seeds will harvest gourds. No one can sow bitter seeds and expect to harvest sweet fruit. Life is not random chance, but a flow of intertwined causes and conditions. Every word we speak, every action we take, every thought that arises in our mind plants a seed. That seed falls onto a certain soil, is nurtured in a certain way, and at some point, it will blossom into fruit. What often causes us suffering is the expectation to sow today and harvest tomorrow. We do a good deed and immediately expect reciprocity. We help someone and immediately expect them to remember our kindness and treat us well. But cause and effect do not operate according to our impatience. Some seeds will sprout in just a few days, but some seeds need months, even years, to grow. Some seeds we sow today, but will not bear sweet fruit until the next lifetime. That is why the immediate expectation of reciprocity often only leads to more disappointment. But if we understand and believe in cause and effect, we will know that good deeds are never lost. They're simply quietly waiting for the time to blossom. A person who harbors compassion and lives virtuously, sooner or later, will find peace. A person who sows bad deeds, though they may temporarily benefit, will eventually reap bitter fruit. That is the justice of the universe, the truth that the Buddha called the law of karma. He once taught that if you want to know how you lived in a past life, look at what you are reaping in this life. If you want to know what your next life will be like, look at what you are sowing today. I want to share a simple but profound story infused with the spirit of cause and effect. In a small village, there was an old man named Bei, renowned for his lush green vegetable garden. Every planting season, he would set aside a portion of seeds for the next year. But he wouldn't keep all of them for himself. He often shared them with his neighbors, especially the poor families who couldn't afford seeds. He said, "Sowing seeds for others is like sowing joy for yourself." Thanks to his sharing, soon enough, everyone in the village had beautiful vegetable gardens. Children in the village no longer lacked vegetables to eat, and meals became more abundant. Time passed, and Mr. Bei grew old, his health gradually weakening. One day, He fell seriously ill, bedridden. But strangely, he never felt lonely. People in the village took turns cooking porridge, taking turns coming to care for him and inquire about him. Some even skipped market day or worked to sit and chat with him, holding his hand to keep him from being sad. In his final days, Mr. Bay was enveloped in the love and care of the entire village. People did it not out of obligation, but out of gratitude, moved by what he had sown. When he passed away, the whole village escorted him, everyone shedding tears as if bidding farewell to a close family member. The story of Mr. Bay clearly shows us one thing. What you sow, you reap, is not a distant dogma, but a truth manifest in every moment. Mr. Bay sowed vegetable seeds, and the whole village had vegetables to eat. He sowed seeds of love, and his entire life he reaped love. That is cause and effect. Perhaps in your heart, you are asking yourself if you have ever sown bad seeds that you are now suffering for. In truth, none of us are perfect. Through countless cycles of reincarnation, we may have sown unwholesome seeds, and now those fruits are ripening. But don't despair too quickly, because even in this very moment, we can still sow new, beautiful seeds. If yesterday we accidentally sowed bitter seeds, today we can start sowing sweet seeds. Don't forget that the soil of human life is not only for bitter plants to grow, but always has room for fragrant flowers to blossom. To truly understand and live according to cause and effect, you can start with the smallest things. When you encounter someone suffering, instead of turning away, try to smile and say a comforting word. When you see someone in difficulty, try to offer help within your means. When facing injustice, don't rush to seek revenge, but trust in cause and effect. Revenge will not lessen your pain. It will only sow more seeds of resentment. But forgiveness, giving, will become wholesome seeds, and one day they will blossom into peace in your heart. A simple practice is every night before going to bed, close your eyes, take a deep breath, then think about what seeds you have sown today. If you have said something that hurt someone, sincerely repent and vow to sow kind words tomorrow. If you have helped someone today, smile and let that joy become nourishment for the seed of compassion in your heart. Day by day like this, you will find your mind lighter, and your life will gradually change. The Buddha once taught that for one who sows wholesome seeds, blessings follow like a shadow that never leaves a form. Wherever one goes, whatever one does, those blessings will follow and protect. Conversely, for one who sows unwholesome deeds, suffering follows like a shadow follows a form. Understanding this, we will live more carefully with every word, every action, every thought. We will no longer belittle small matters, because every small matter can be a seed sown in the field of our mind. Life is not as unfair as we often think. It merely reflects what we have sown. When we live kindly, with an open heart of compassion, then even if we encounter suffering at times, we will be protected by love and supported by good karma. And when we find ourselves in difficult circumstances, instead of blaming fate, let us ask ourselves, what seeds can I sow today so that tomorrow my life may blossom? Remember that peace is not something we beg for, but a sweet fruit from the wholesome seeds we sow every day. Like Mr. Bay with his small vegetable seeds, in the end, he reaped a season full of widespread love. That is clear evidence that cause and effect are always fair, and blessings always come to those who patiently sow good deeds. Let your heart become a garden. Every day, plant seeds of kindness, seeds of compassion, seeds of gratitude. Then, one day, when you look back, you will see a lush, green garden full of the shade of peace. That is the great reward that no wealth can compare to. Dear friend, in today's hurried life, perhaps each of us has at least once felt exhausted, as if the whole world is weighing down on our shoulders. We throw ourselves into work, into relationships, into competitions of winning and losing, only to sometimes look back and realize our heart is drained. Some worry about food, clothing, and money. Others suffer from incomplete relationships. Still others endlessly chase fame, losing the peace within their soul. In such moments, have you ever asked yourself if we are living too complicated a life? Could true happiness lie in simplicity, in the ability to accept that all things are impermanent, constantly changing? There is a truth that everyone knows, but few are willing to accept. This life is short. Time is like sand slipping through our fingers. It can never be held back. When we are young, we think we have plenty of time to dream, to strive, to hold on. But the older we get, the more upheavals we go through, the more we suddenly realize that human life is just like a fragile breath. Yet, ironically, the more we know it's short, the more people crave, the more they want to grasp everything. We fear losing out, fear loss, and that's why we suffer. But if we understand the principle of impermanence, that everything will change, that nothing lasts forever, we will feel much lighter in our hearts. Have you ever witnessed a loved one pass away, leaving behind a huge fortune, but taking nothing with them? That is the clearest reminder of impermanence. The wealthy must also close their eyes and depart. The poor also do. No one takes even a penny. What we can truly keep is a peaceful state of mind and the genuine affection we have sown in the hearts of others. So why do we cling to competition? Why do we suffer endlessly for things that cannot be held on to for long? I remember the story of an old woman in the neighborhood, whom everyone called Mrs. Nam. All her life she worked diligently, accumulating much property: houses, fields, cattle, children, and grandchildren all admired her for building her fortune with her own hands. But then old age came. Her health gradually weakened, and she could no longer run around as before. At that point, instead of clinging to her possessions, she decided to distribute everything to her children and grandchildren. She kept only a small room for herself, enough to rest, enough to light incense on the Buddha altar. Every morning and evening, someone would ask her if she regretted it, but she would just smile kindly and say, "Having little and a peaceful heart, that is true happiness." Living lightly so that her final days would be serene, while her children and grandchildren thrived beside her. Her remaining years were truly peaceful. Her children and grandchildren often visited, gathering around her. The small room was filled with laughter. Hearing Mrs. Nam's story, I suddenly thought of a teaching in the scriptures. Wealth and fame are but dreams of the night. Upon waking, all things vanish. We often hoard, wanting more to feel secure. But in reality, the greatest security is knowing contentment and living simply. Simple in how we dress, in our words, in how we perceive life. When our mind lessens its cravings, we see that the small things around us are enough to make us happy. A simple meal shared with laughter, a morning spent breathing fresh air, a warm hand held by a loved one. All are infinitely precious. So how can we truly live simply and accept impermanence? You can start with the smallest things. When you feel tired, stop for a moment. Take 3 deep breaths, close your eyes, and tell yourself that everything will pass. Nothing lasts forever. Try writing down the things you are clinging to, then ask yourself, is this truly necessary? If I let it go, could I be lighter? You can also practice meditating for 5 minutes each day, simply observing your breath going in and out, to see that even this breath is impermanent. It comes and goes, never stopping. When you understand the impermanence of breath, you will gradually accept other changes in life. Many people are afraid to let go because they think they will lose everything. But letting go is not losing. It is giving yourself the opportunity to receive peace. Like Mrs. Nam, when she distributed all her assets, she didn't become poor. On the contrary, she became richer in love and serenity. Simplicity is appreciating what you have, not craving too much. You can start today by closing your phone after listening to this teaching, stepping out onto the balcony, taking a deep breath, looking at the vast sky, and smiling. That smile is the beginning of a simple life. In Buddhism, there is a saying that simplicity is happiness. When we reduce complexity, reduce competition, reduce calculation, happiness naturally appears. Happiness is not far away, not bought with money, but it is the ability to live fully in the present, appreciating every drop of water, every breath, every smile. Impermanence reminds us that nothing is eternal, so we must cherish every moment we have left, even more. So, dear friend, if one day you find yourself too tired of life, remember Mrs. Nam's story. Remember that having little and a peaceful heart, that is happiness. Learn to live simply. Accept impermanence so that each day that passes is a peaceful one. And let this saying echo in your heart. Simplicity is happiness. Peace is the most priceless treasure. Have you ever noticed that every day of our lives seems to pass in incessant noise? The crowded sounds of traffic, the constant ringing of phones, notifications from social media, and the non-stop chatter within our own minds? Modern people are living in a world that has never been quiet. And sometimes it is precisely the absence of silence that makes us more tired than ever. Have there been evenings when you sat down, intending to rest a little, but your mind was flooded with thoughts? Thoughts of tomorrow's work, unpaid bills, children, parents, and vague, unnamed worries. When the mind never has a moment of stillness, how can we find true peace? Silence, to many people, sounds simple, but is one of the hardest things to achieve. Because silence is not just about stopping talking, but also about stopping the noise in our soul. We often fear silence, fear facing ourselves, so we find every way to fill the void with sound, with work, with meaningless conversations. But the more we chase after these, the more tired we become, the more we lose ourselves. The Buddha once taught that wisdom arises from the stillness of the mind, yet we shy away from that stillness, letting our minds drift in noise. Some will say that silence is escapism, but that's not true. Silence is not to escape the world, but to return to our true self. In silence, we can truly listen to what we want, where we hurt, what we yearn for. Just as when we stand by a calm lake, only when the water is still and clear can we see the reflection of the sky and clouds. Can we see the bottom of the lake? Similarly, when our mind is full of ripples from worries and anger, we will never recognize our true nature. Only in silence, when the ripples gradually subside, can we realize the path we need to take, the things we truly want. There was a young man named Min. His story might make many of us see ourselves in it. Min was an office worker. His life revolved around work and his phone. In the morning, the first thing Min did upon waking was not to stretch and breathe in the fresh air, but to grab his phone to check messages and emails. Throughout the day, his phone was practically glued to his hand, from his lunch break until he got home, and even before going to bed. Min thought that constantly updating information helped him work more efficiently and connect more, but in reality, his mind became increasingly tired, stressed, and cluttered. One time, after many days of pressure, Min decided to turn off his phone one afternoon. At first, he felt very uncomfortable, as if he was cut off from the world, not knowing if anyone needed to contact him, what was happening on social media. But then, as he stepped out onto the porch and sat down on the wooden chair, for the first time, he noticed the birds singing in the tree, the wind gently rustling the leaves. He sat there, doing nothing, simply breathing and listening. And he suddenly realized how many peaceful, simple moments he had missed all this time. It turned out that peace was not in the latest news, not in unread messages, but in the very moment he allowed himself to be silent and listen to himself. Min's story reminds us that sometimes just an afternoon without a phone, a moment of sitting still, can help us rediscover the peace we lost long ago. But not everyone can do that easily. Some might say, "I'm so busy, how can I find time to sit still?" But in reality, silence doesn't require much time. Just a few minutes each day, a few minutes of sitting down, closing your eyes, and breathing deeply can nourish your soul. You can try it right now. Take a deep breath, feel the air going into your lungs, then gently exhale, letting all worries go with your breath. Try closing your eyes. Don't think about anything. Just listen to your own breathing. At first, you might feel uncomfortable, thoughts constantly arising in your mind, but don't be discouraged too quickly. Just let those thoughts come and go. Like clouds drifting across the sky, you just need to sit still and breathe. If you practice this for just a few minutes each day, gradually, you will find your mind more serene. And in that serenity, you will hear the voice of your heart. The Buddha once said, "Within each person, there is a seed of mindfulness and wisdom. It is just that we do not water it with stillness. We keep searching outside, but forget that the answers to all worries lie within ourselves. When we know how to turn back and listen to ourselves, we will realize the path we should take and what we need to let go of. Silence is like a guiding light that illuminates the hidden corners of the soul, helping us to see ourselves more clearly. Silence is also a way for us to face our suffering. Many people think that talking, complaining, and expressing themselves will help them feel lighter. But sometimes, the more we talk, the more we cling, the deeper we sink into suffering. Meanwhile, if we know how to be silent and sit still, suffering will gradually dissolve. Like a muddy glass of water, if you keep stirring it, it will become even muddier. But if you put it down and let it sit, the sediment will settle, and the water will become clear. Our mind is the same. The more silent it is, the clearer it becomes. Some monks often advise practitioners to practice sitting still and breathing every day. Not for long, just 5 minutes. Sit down with your back straight. Place your hands on your knees. Relax your body. Then breathe in deeply and exhale slowly. When you breathe in, you can silently tell yourself, "I know I am breathing in." When you breathe out, silently tell yourself, "I know I am breathing out." It sounds simple, but if practiced regularly, you will find your life change, your mind less agitated, your heart less heavy, and you will begin to love moments of silence. The important thing is that when we listen to ourselves, we will know what is truly important in life. There are things we thought we needed to be happy, but when we sit still, we realize we only need simple things. A sincere smile, a warm meal with family, a quiet evening watching the sunset, all can bring profound joy. And conversely, disputes, rivalries, and envy suddenly become meaningless when viewed in silence. If we can dedicate a few minutes each day to silence, life will gradually become lighter. You will no longer feel like you are running a meaningless race with the world, no longer swept away by the surrounding noise. You will realize that peace is not found by seeking a place completely devoid of sound, but by creating a quiet space within your own soul, even when the world outside is still noisy. At the end of a day, before going to sleep, you can sit down, turn off all electronic devices, close your eyes, and just breathe. Let the whole day pass. Let your weariness dissipate in the silence. If you can do this, you will find sleep comes more easily. And the next morning, you will wake up with a refreshed mindset. Learning to be silent and listen to yourself is not just a skill, but a journey of returning. This journey helps us understand ourselves better, appreciate what we have, and live a lighter, more serene life. As the Buddha taught, a mind as still as a calm lake, wisdom will illuminate all paths. Give yourself the opportunity to live in that stillness, to rediscover yourself, to realize what true happiness is. And when we know how to be silent, how to listen to ourselves, we will no longer be easily swept away by the outside world. We will stand firmer against the storms, because within us there is always a peaceful place to return to. Start today with 1 minute of breathing, 1 minute of sitting still to give your heart the precious gift of stillness. Dear friend, there are days when we feel as if the whole world has turned its back on us. All roads ahead are dim, and we wonder if we still have the strength to keep going. That is when the storms of life knock us down, leaving us utterly exhausted in both body and mind. Some collapse halfway, giving up everything. Others stand up resiliently, continuing to walk with bleeding feet. Life is inherently so, full of challenges. No one can avoid falling. But what matters is not how many times we have fallen, but whether we have the courage to rise after those falls. When we are too tired, we often forget that every difficulty will eventually pass. Just as a storm, no matter how fierce, only lasts for a while, then the sky clears, the clouds disperse, and sunlight shines again. I remember once a friend sighed, saying, "Why am I still not getting better? It's one thing after another." I looked at my friend and clearly saw their weary eyes, shoulders heavy, as if carrying the whole world. At that moment, I just gently smiled and said, "My friend, remember that even a turbulent sea doesn't stay stormy forever. There will be peaceful days. All current difficulties are only temporary." My friend fell silent. Then tears welled up. I think everyone needs such a reminder in their heart to know that they are not alone, and that suffering will eventually recede. Many people, when they encounter failure, quickly think that life has closed its doors on them, as if the path is blocked, with no way out. But in reality, when one door closes, sometimes it is precisely the moment for us to find another path that is more suitable, more stable. Life is always in motion, and it is persistence that is the light illuminating the path we travel. Like a bamboo tree that withstands many storms, it remains flexible, still growing tall amidst the wind and rain. The story of Ms. Thao is a clear example. She was an ordinary woman who harbored the dream of starting a small clothing store. But life is not as easy as we think. After only a few months, the store suffered heavy losses, and debts piled up. Those days, she lived in despair. Fear enveloped her, and every night she cried until her tears dried up. Many people advised her to give up and find another job to pay off her debts, to forget about business. But she refused. Deep down, she still believed that she could get back on her feet. Then, one morning, while buying groceries at the market, she suddenly thought, "If I can't sell clothes, what if I try cooking?" So, with the meager capital she had left, she opened a small eatery at the end of the alley. At first, there were few customers. She cooked and worried, laughing and crying at the same time. But then the flavor of her dishes, combined with her sincerity and warm smile, attracted more and more people. From a few regulars, it gradually became dozens, then hundreds. Before long, her eatery became a familiar spot for people in the area. Her debts were paid off little by little. She not only rebuilt her own life, but also created jobs for other people in need. There was a poor student she took in to help at the eatery. There was a single mother she guided. Some people who had once despaired found faith thanks to her. People said that she not only cooked delicious meals, but also gave love and hope. From a person defeated by failure, Ms. Thao transformed that very pain into motivation. Her story makes us understand that failure is not an end, but merely a comma in life. It is through falling that we learn to stand firmer. If we had never fallen, how would we appreciate every steady step we take later? The ancients had a saying, Failure is the mother of success. Buddha taught that there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path of rising after a fall. That is happiness. Because we know we are still alive, still have the opportunity to renew ourselves, to keep going. Don't let yesterday's wounds shackle tomorrow. Now, try to sit still, close your eyes, take a deep breath. As you exhale, gradually let go of fear and worry. Think that this difficulty too shall pass. You still have worth. You deserve to be loved. You deserve happiness. Repeat this 3 times in your mind so that the reminder gradually permeates every breath. You can write down one thing you want to start over, one thing you have missed out on due to fear. Don't write too much, just one thing. Place that paper somewhere visible as a promise to yourself that you will not give up. You will try again. In the flow of life, no one is a permanent failure. Everyone has value. Everyone is a precious gem in everyday life. It's just that sometimes we let dust obscure our light. All that's needed is to wipe away that dust, and the light will naturally shine forth. Believe that the days you are living, no matter how difficult, are opportunities to grow. Like a lotus seed that must grow from the mud to bloom into a pure flower. Humans, too, must pass through storms to radiate lasting fragrance. So don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of storms. Because it is these storms that will give us strong wings so that one day, when we look back, we can smile and say, I've been through it. I've overcome it. And because of that, I've become the person I am today. And when you recall your most tiring days, you will feel gratitude. Gratitude for not giving up. Gratitude for daring to stand up. Let Ms. Tao's story be a guiding light in your heart, reminding you that it is never too late to start over. Never too late for hope when your heart still wants to move forward. Life can make us hesitate, but never let it steal your faith. You are an important part of this world. You deserve happiness, and you have the strength to overcome any storm. Remember, after the rain, the sky will clear again. After suffering, peace will return to your heart. Dear friend, in this life, everyone has moments of exhaustion. Sometimes we wake up in the middle of the night with dark circles under our eyes, our minds heavy with unresolved worries. Sometimes we sit quietly in a familiar room, but feel estranged from ourselves, not knowing where to go, not knowing what truly matters. There are days when we walk down the street, our legs heavy as lead, feeling every step is tiring. Every breath is heavy. This weariness doesn't just come from work, from the burden of my making a living, but also from inner wounds, from unfulfilled desires, from cravings that exceed our grasp. When you look around, you'll realize that you're not the only one feeling tired. The elderly have the weariness of old age, worrying about their children and grandchildren. The young have the weariness of unfulfilled dreams, of the pressure to succeed. Mothers and fathers carrying the responsibility of nurturing their families also have their own weariness. Fatigue spares no one. But what's important is how we perceive it. If we only cling to it, seeing it as a chain, we will surely be exhausted. But if we see fatigue as a bell that reminds us, then from within that very fatigue, we can find a way to let go. to grow. Imagine life as a long journey. If you keep running continuously without stopping, without resting, you will eventually collapse along the way. Fatigue is a reminder that we need to stop for a moment. Let our heart rest. Let our soul find peace. Fatigue is not an enemy. Fatigue is just a sign that tells us we have gone too fast, taken on too much, and forgotten that both body and mind need care. I remember a story about a student who came to a Zen master complaining that life was too tiring, work was too stressful, and family had many sad stories. The student sighed, saying they had no more strength to endure. The Zen master did not answer immediately, but quietly poured a cup of tea, pouring until the water overflowed. The student, startled, and exclaimed, "Master, it's full. Don't pour any more." At that moment, the Zen master gently said, "Do you see? Your mind is like this cup of tea. It is already too full. If you don't let go of some, don't leave some empty, there will be no room to receive new things, and no room for peace." The student fell silent, understanding that fatigue is a sign to let go, not to collapse. In everyday life, often we are also like that full cup of tea. We accumulate so many worries, so many desires, that our soul becomes constricted, with no room to breathe. That's why we are tired. But if we know how to stop, to let go of some, we will feel lighter. Just as when we clean a room, throwing away things we no longer use, the room suddenly becomes spacious and bright. The soul is the same. If we know how to clean it, to let go of old things, our mind will be more peaceful, and life will be gentler. Try sitting still for a few minutes. Take a deep breath, then exhale slowly. When you breathe in, imagine you are inhaling a new source of energy. When you breathe out, imagine you are letting go of a part of your burden. This simple practice, if you do it every day, you will feel your soul gradually cleansed. Don't underestimate small things, because sometimes it is precisely small things that create great change. Fatigue is also an opportunity for you to look back at yourself. While everything is in flux, fatigue forces us to stop, to ask ourselves what is truly important. Some people endlessly chase fame and fortune, only to realize, when they are exhausted, that what they truly yearned for was not money, but inner peace. Some people spend their lives accumulating wealth, only to finally realize that true joy is a moment spent eating a meal with family. Thanks to fatigue, we wake up. We see what true value is, and what needs to be let go of. The ancients said, "Fire tests gold, hardship tests strength." But hardship is also a mirror that reflects our heart. Fatigue is a reminder that we need to adjust our way of life, learn to slow down, learn to breathe, and smile, like the temple bell echoing in the quiet evening. Each bell invites us to return to ourselves, return to our breath, return to the inherent serenity within our mind. You can try a small practice. Write down 3 things that make you most tired right now. Then ask yourself, which ones are truly important? Which ones can I let go of? Which ones are not worth keeping in my heart? Then slowly fold that paper and put it in a box. By doing so, you remind yourself that fatigue is something that can be seen, something that can be put down. No need to carry it in your heart forever. When a long day ends, allow yourself to sit in quietude for a few minutes. Place your hand on your chest and whisper, "Today, I tried my best. I deserve to rest." That whisper is a wake-up call, reminding you to return, reminding you to love yourself. Dear friend, fatigue is not an end, but a comma in the long journey. It comes to teach us to let go, to live slowly, to appreciate what we have. As the Buddha taught, dwelling in the present moment is peace. When we let our mind return to the present, when we know how to breathe, how to smile, then fatigue is no longer a burden, but becomes a door opening to peace. Let your heart rest. Let your soul be at peace. When you are peaceful, life will be peaceful. Consider each moment of fatigue as a wake-up call, inviting you to return to yourself. And when you find inner peace, you will see that the world around you is also gentler, the light is warmer, and people are closer. That is the reward that fatigue offers if you know how to embrace it with mindfulness.